Hey everyone, it's Mr. Nunley. I'm back for round 2 of my Act 1 recap for Romeo and Juliet. I apologize, the videos are a little long, but I'm basically trying to put words that are 450 years old into modern English to help you understand. Again, this video is optional. You do not have to watch it, but hopefully it helps your comprehension. So where we left off, Benvolio is trying to help out his cousin Romeo. He has learned that Romeo is in love, but the girl that he loves doesn't love him back. Again, that girl's name is Rosaline. So Benvolio says, a right fair mark, again, fair means beautiful, fair cuz. So he's saying that his cousin, Romeo, is also a good-looking person, as soon as hit. So Benvolio thinks, oh, the reason why she doesn't love you is she's beautiful, so she already found a man. Romeo's like, no, that's not it. So Romeo says, well, on that hit you missed. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. Remember, Cupid is like considered a god of love who shoots little arrows and makes people fall in love. So this girl, Rosaline, refuses to fall in love. Why? Because she had Diane's wit. Now, Diane is a Greek goddess known for chastity. Chastity is virginity. So apparently, Rosaline has sworn to be a virgin. What type of woman would do that? Perhaps Rosaline wants to be a nun. So Romeo goes on to say, nor by thy encounter of assailing eyes. So I try to give her the look. I'm a good-looking guy, but she still doesn't want me. Nor ope her lap to saint seducing gold. I'm rich, but she still doesn't want me. Oh, she's rich in beauty, only poor, that when she dies, with beauty dies her store. So Romeo's like, this girl wants to be a virgin for life. It's madness. It's stupidity. She needs to spread that beauty to further generations. She needs to have a bunch of kids so people could see her beautiful daughters grow up and appreciate their beauty later in life. She needs to have kids, and they need to have kids to continue her beauty generation after generation. So Benvolio's like, so you're in love with this girl that's going to remain chaste, meaning a virgin? And Romeo's like, yeah, I am. And it's a big waste, a huge waste, that she's going to be a virgin for life. So Romeo, we never get his age exactly. A lot of people say he's about 18. He truly doesn't know what love is at this point in his life, thinking that gold is going to get a woman. He may get some women, but not all women. Romeo thinks it's a waste that she's decided to be a nun and dedicate her life to God for his own selfish reasons, because he wants her and he wants to have kids with her. Let's see. Romeo goes on to say that he basically feels like a dead man because this girl Rosaline doesn't love him back. So Benvolio's like, you know what, cousin, I'm going to help you. I'm going to make you forget her. So he says, be ruled by me. Forget to think of her. Like, stop thinking about her, cousin. And Romeo goes on to say, oh, teach me how I should forget to think. So Romeo's like, I can't forget her. So Benvolio's advice is this. You should give liberty unto thine eyes. Examine other beauties. So Benvolio's saying, hey, cousin, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Let's check out some other girls, and I'll make you forget about this Rosaline girl real quick. And Romeo basically says, Benvolio, that's impossible. And he ends this line by saying, farewell, thou cannot teach me to forget. So Romeo's like, I don't care. I could look at all the women in the world, and none of them will be as beautiful as Rosaline, so I'll never ever forget her. The scene is about to end here. Benvolio says, I'll pay that doctrine or else die in debt. So Benvolio, he's a good guy. He wants to help Romeo, his cousin. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to help you, cousin. And if I don't help you, I'm going to at least die trying to help you. So that's the end of Act 1, Scene 1. So Act 1, Scene 2, we got Capulet, Juliet's dad, Paris. Paris is the prince's cousin, so he's part of the royal family, and a servant. So Capulet is pretty happy at this moment because he feels like the feud is over. Why does he feel like the feud is over? The prince has just threatened to kill anyone that fights again in the streets of Verona. So Capulet's like, you know what? You'd have to be an idiot to fight because you're going to get killed for fighting again. So Capulet's like, you know what? The feud's over. He's feeling good. So he's talking to Paris. Why is he talking to Paris? We don't really know. So the next page we find out. Paris says, but now, my lord, what say you to my suit? So a suit is a basic, don't think of like clothing right now. A suitor is a guy that wants to marry a woman. So when Paris says, what say you to my suit? Apparently Paris has already asked Lord Capulet, Juliet's dad, to marry Juliet. During this time period, it was common for wealthy families to have arranged marriages. So Juliet, again, is from the Capulet family, a rich, wealthy family. Paris is part of the royal family. He's cousin to Prince Aeschylus. And Paris wants to marry Juliet. Are they a good match? Yeah, they're both from rich, wealthy families. Would Lord Capulet want his daughter to marry Paris? Absolutely. He's part of the royal family. Why would he say no? Again, at this time period, women couldn't really work and get jobs. So Juliet will essentially be set up for life by marrying this guy Paris because he's part of the royal family. So here's Capulet's response. Can Paris marry Juliet? Capulet says, but saying over what I've said before, my child is yet a stranger in the road. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. So we finally learn Juliet's age. Juliet is 13 years old. She has not seen the change of 14 years, meaning she has not had her 14th birthday. So Juliet is 13 years old, and this guy Paris wants to marry 13-year-old Juliet. I know that sounds really creepy for a 13-year-old to be married, but that's how things were back during this time period. But Capulet says, you know what? Before you marry Juliet, let's let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we make think her ripe to be a bride. So Capulet realizes, you know what? My daughter's 13. She's my only kid. She's really young. Let's let 2 more summers pass, and she'll ripen like fruit on a tree. And she'll be ready to be a bride better in 2 years when she's 15 instead of 13. Those last 2 lines are what you call a couplet. So you have let 2 summers wither in their pride. Pride, okay, that's the last word. Ere we may think her ripe to be a bride. So pride and bride rhyme. Those are called a couplet. That's very common to see in Romeo and Juliet. So Capulet's like, yeah, you can marry her, but wait 2 years. Let's see Paris's answer. So Paris says, younger than she, our happy mother's maid. So Paris is like, well, I know a 12-year-old that's already married. I think she's ready. So Paris really wants her now. And Capulet's like, you know what? All right, Paris, if you really want to marry my daughter Juliet, woo her, gentle Paris. Get her heart. My will to her consent is but a part. And she agree within her scope of choice lies my consent and fair according voice. So he's basically saying, all right, Paris, I get it. You want her. She's 13. If you could win my daughter's heart, then you could marry her now. Otherwise, you got to wait 2 more years. But Capulet has a plan in his head. He's like, you know what? This night, I'm going to hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest, such as I love, and you among the store. One more most welcome makes my number more. So Lord Capulet is throwing a party. Why? Because he thinks the feud is over. So he invites Paris to this party. Some may be thinking, oh, so he could talk to Juliet. And yes, that's why Paris wants to go. But Capulet has something up his sleeves. He's like, you know what? I'm going to invite you to this party because he says here, among fresh female buds shall you this night inherit at my house. Hear all see, and like her most, whose merit most shall be, which among view of many, mine, being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. So Lord Capulet is like, you know what? I want you to come to this party, Paris, and I know you want to see my daughter, but there's going to be a ton of females at this party. Why don't you check out these other women at the party, and maybe you want one of them instead of my daughter. That way my daughter has more time. So we'll find out if Paris falls in love with another girl at the party or if he's going to be stuck on Juliet. So at this point, a servant shows up in the room, and Lord Capulet basically gives this servant a piece of paper. So he says, come, go with me, go Sarah, trudge about through Verona, find these persons out whose names are written here. And he gives the piece of paper, and to them say, my house and welcome on their pleasure stay. Exit Capulet and Paris. So Lord Capulet just gave one of his servants a piece of paper, and basically it's a guest list for this feast for this party. There's one big problem, okay? And the servant just tells us, find them out whose names are written here. It is written that the shoemaker should meddle with his yard, and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil, and the painter with his nets. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are writ and can never find what names the writing person hath here writ. I must to the learned in good time. So what's the problem? This servant was just given a guest list for the party, but he does not know how to read. Major problem. You could kind of see his ignorance in the examples that he shares. He mentions the fisher with his pencil and the painter with his nets. So the fisher should have the nets, and the painter might have the pencil, but he's screwing things up because he's not an intelligent person. So guess what? The servant's now left the Capulet household, and he's trying to invite people to this party, but he doesn't know how to read. By coincidence, or fate, or destiny, he bumps into Romeo and Benvolio. So if he can't read, guess what he's going to do? He's going to ask for help. And guess who he's going to ask for help? He's basically going to ask Romeo and Benvolio for help. So let's see. Here we go. We got to skip forward a little bit. So here's the servant. He says, God, Godin, I pray, sir, can you read? So he's basically saying, good afternoon, gentlemen. Can you read? And Romeo's like, yeah, I could read. So the servant says, perhaps you have learned it without book, but I pray, can you read anything you see? Romeo says, if I know the letters and the language. So Romeo's like, yeah, I could read. So Romeo now gets this message and he reads. It says, stay, fellow, I can read. And Romeo reads the message. Signor Martino and his wife and his daughters, County Anselmo and his beauteous sisters, the lady of Vitruvio, Signor Placentio, and his lovely niece Mercutio, and his brother Valentine, mine uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline, Livia, Signor Valentio, and his cousin Tybalt, Lucio, and the lively Helena. So that's the guest list. So only these people on this list are supposed to be invited to the feast that Capulet's having to celebrate the end of the feud. Now, if you notice, one of the names on the guest list is Rosaline. Again, Rosaline is the woman that Romeo loves. So Romeo might want to go to this party to see the girl that he loves. But again, she's sworn to be a virgin, so it would probably be useless. Romeo says, a fair assembly. He gives the paper back, and he says, where are they going? Whither should they come? And the servant says, to supper, to our house. And Romeo's like, well, whose house is that? The servant's like, my master's. And Romeo's like, well, who's your master? And the servant says, now I'll tell you without asking, my master is the great, rich Capulet. If you be not of the house of Montagues, I pray, come and crush a cup of wine. Rest you merry. So what did the servant just share with Romeo and Benvolio? He says, I am a servant for Lord Capulet. He's throwing a party tonight. Since you helped me read this list, and you've done me this huge favor, I'm inviting you to come to this party. Unless you're a Montague, of course. Now we know Benvolio and Romeo are Montagues. So Romeo and Benvolio have just been invited to their enemy's party by fate, by destiny, because this illiterate servant needed help, and he just so happens to come across Romeo, who helps him. Now this feud is supposed to be over, but if Romeo comes and crashes this Capulet party, there's one person that we're going to be worried about, and that's this guy named Tybalt. Remember, Tybalt is the nephew of Lord Capulet, and Tybalt is a hothead. When Benvolio was trying to break up the fight at the beginning of the play, Tybalt was trying to continue the fight. So if Romeo shows up to this party and Tybalt finds out that he's there, Tybalt's going to throw a fit, and he's probably going to want to fight him. So we don't know what's going to happen yet, but that's kind of foreshadowing of what's to come. Alright, so Benvolio's like, well, at this feast, Rosaline's going to be there. And guess what? There's a bunch of other girls on that list. So how about we go to the feast, Romeo, and check out who's there? Let's check out some other women. And he even says, I'm going to compare her face with some that I will show, and I'll make thee think that I swan a crow. So Benvolio's like, let's go to this party, cousin. There's going to be a lot of women there. And guess what? Your Rosaline, who you think is a swan or a beautiful bird, I'm going to make her look like a crow or black and disappear. And Romeo's like, you're crazy. One fairer than my love, the all-seeing sun, has never seen her match since the world first begun. So you can see how desperately in love Romeo is in with Rosaline, saying she's the most beautiful woman that ever walked the face of the earth. That's going to be the end of my second recap. Again, I apologize.